going to be different in there.
Sure will.
Well, thank you, everyone, for coming. As you might imagine, today is a historic day for the BC Green Party as we have culminated our negotiations with the BC NDP and the BC Liberals. We spent 4 sessions with the BC NDP, many hours, talking about issues of commonality, talking about differences. We also had good negotiations with BC Liberals. And what was obvious to us, the BC Greens, is that there is so much commonality in this legislature. There are so many ideas that all parties share. And in the end, we had to make a difficult decision. A decision that we felt was in the best interest of British Columbia today. And that decision was for the BC Greens to work with the BC NDP to provide a stable minority government for over the 4-year term of this next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, everyone, for coming today. This is indeed a historic day for British Columbia. It has been decades since an election has returned a lack of a majority for one party in this great institution that Andrew and I have the privilege of being represented in. I am very excited about the prospect of delivering for the people of British Columbia what they voted for on May 9th, and that was change. 60% of the voters that cast votes voted for change, and we are going to be able to give that change as a result of the agreement reached between the BC Green Caucus and the BC NDP Caucus. I'm very excited about the prospect of stable government and demonstrating to British Columbians that we can do great things when we work together. We can do great things across party lines when we have a government in place that's anxious to do that. I'm very excited about the prospects. Andrew and I have worked very closely over the past number of weeks. We've brought forward the issues that bring us together, and we've highlighted those issues that separate us. And we've come to a conclusion that a government run by the BC NDP with the support on issues around supply and budgeting can, in fact, deliver for British Columbians a government that's focused on people. We're very excited about that, and of course, you're going to be asking us some questions about the content of the agreement, and we want to leave that to ratification tomorrow by the BC NDP Caucus, which is coming to town. But with that, I want to thank Andrew and the Green Caucus for the work that you've done
Real pleasure.
to make this place work. And with that, Sheena and the legislature determines who the speaker will be, and the legislature will not be called until after the writs are returned.
Is there anything in your arrangement, though, that would lead to to the naming or election of the speaker by mutual agreement?
We did not contemplate that in the arrangement.
Have you got an idea when you would call the House together? Because the first order of business is to come up with a speaker.
Yes.
Do I detect from what you've said that if you, John Horgan, have not agreed that it will be a New Democrat?
No, what you can determine is that we have, over the course of the past number of days since the final vote last Wednesday, made it clear that the current government did not have the support of a majority of members. We now have, with our 41 members and the 3 Green members, the majority support in the legislature. We'll be making that known to the Lieutenant Governor in the next number of days, and we'll proceed from there.
Do you expect the Premier to just resign?
The Premier will have some choices to make, without any doubt. The agreement that's been reached between the Green Caucus and the BC NDP Caucus demonstrates that we have the majority support of members in the legislature, and that will be up to the Premier and the Lieutenant Governor to discuss.
Justine? So you won't give us details of what you get electoral reforms?
You'll see that the details will be released tomorrow. The details are being brought for signature to both our caucuses. I can say that my caucus, who's behind you there, have signed on. We're waiting for the BC NDP caucus to sign on tomorrow. They have a caucus meeting.
In terms of are you expecting to go up to the Lieutenant Governor and say we don't need to wait for the Hart government to fall on a confidence vote?
Our expectation today was to announce that we had come to agreement on the principles of a 4-year framework for support for confidence issues around budgeting and supply. Tomorrow, our caucus was scheduled to meet. We're going to put the agreement before our caucus and have it ratified, and then we'll make it available to the public at that time.
Richard?
Andrew, is there anything, if the Premier decides to come and test the confidence of the House at 43, is there anything that she could put in a throne speech that would change your mind from how you're feeling right now?
No, the reason why we're standing here today instead of waiting until such time as the throne speech was put forward was precisely to give British Columbians certainty. I said all along that it's important that British Columbians have certainty. We spent a good deal of time in negotiating with the BC NDP and the BC Liberals, and this is the certainty that I'm hoping to give British Columbia. We have an agreement which will be ratified. I hope it'll be ratified by the BC NDP tomorrow. And that agreement is the BC Greens will give the BC NDP support to form government, and the terms of the agreement, as I've mentioned, will be for 4 years. We're not looking to have an election anytime soon. We're looking to show to British Columbians that minority governments can work, and what better way to show that proportional representation could work by showing that a minority government can and will work in the best interest of people throughout its session.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to allude to that tomorrow when the details are there. Obviously, there are some things that are near and dear to my heart, to the heart of my caucus colleagues, as well as to the BC NDP and their caucus. And there was negotiations there. But, you know, one of the things I can say is that the issue of Kinder Morgan is one that I have been heavily invested into. My colleague Adam Olson and I were both interveners. My colleague Sonia Furstenau was participating internationally on people's climate. I forget the actual name, Sonia? Citizens Climate Lobby. So this issue of Kinder Morgan is one that was critical to us, and I think you'll see that reflected in tomorrow's announcement, assuming that the BC NDP caucus ratify it.
Yeah, and I don't want to leave you hanging. We have had a preliminary discussion with our caucus colleagues, but they were all scheduled to be in town tomorrow. They're going to get a detailed look at the document at that time. I have every confidence that there's going to be unanimous support from our team, so I don't want to leave any doubt there. But we wanted to make sure that the individuals, Adam and Sonia and Andrew, have been working together on this. My colleagues are spread in a farther afield around British Columbia. So when we arrive together tomorrow, we'll be ratifying the agreement. And again, the exciting part about this for Andrew and I, who haven't spent the past 4 years together in the legislature trying to find common ground with government, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, this is an opportunity for people coming from an opposition perspective to bring new eyes to government. 60% of the people who voted in the last election voted for our party, Andrew's party, or smaller parties. This is a chance to demonstrate that PR can work, and that's exciting for both of us. We're strong supporters of that.
Binder?
Christy Clark Finger put out a video today talking about the spirit of cooperation, looking to still work with other parties. What's your message to her? Do you see a way forward where you can also cooperate with the Liberals?
I'm happy to cooperate with Liberals. I've done so in the past as a member of the legislature, as a critic, as the House leader. I'm delighted to do that. But what we've demonstrated today is that with the support of Andrew, Adam, and Sonia, and the 41 MLAs elected on May 9th, to represent the NDP, we have a majority of support in the legislature, and I believe an opportunity to put in place a new government that will work very, very hard on just those issues.
I too look forward to working with the BC Liberals. You know, I've demonstrated that over the last 4 years on an issue-by-issue basis, and that's the relationship that we'll have moving forward, is that we're here to make government work, and it means working with all MLAs. I think this is an exciting time for British Columbia, because I think we have a case now that will show British Columbia that this Parliament, this legislature can work and can put their interests first and foremost. And it's really quite an exciting opportunity, and for that I'm very grateful to be working with the BC NDP to make that happen.
Okay, Mike Smith?
Have either of you talked directly to Christy Clark to tell her what you're up to here?
I spoke with.
No.
I spoke with Ms. Clark following the election. I haven't spoken with her since, but.
I spoke with Ms. Clark following the election too. We've been in daily communications with Mr. Bennett, who has been her negotiator at the table. We informed Mr. Bennett this morning sometime, not me personally, my chief of staff, that we were going to have this agreement. The Premier apparently, as I was getting in here, had tried to contact me. I believe there might be a voice message, and I will phone her after this.
I have a voice message as well.
Okay.
But from another time.
How did Brad Bennett take the news?
I didn't know. I didn't have that conversation. Look, I want to be very clear too. Our negotiations with the BC Liberal were very, very thorough and thoughtful, and there's a lot of commonality there. This is what is so exciting, is we're in the negotiating room with both sides, and we see commonality there. Our job as BC Greens is to bring the commonalities this way as well. And that's what we're going to try to do.
How close did you get to a deal with the Liberals? You said the other day you were very, very close.
We were very, very close with both parties. And, you know, there were some things that we felt were important that were a little, some values were a little more common with others. And say no more. You'll see tomorrow. Yeah. And you'll.
Mary? I'm just wondering, you said today was about budgeting and supply, but what can we expect to see a Green Party member in your cabinet?
I don't think. I would say no.
No.
We specifically did not ask for there to be a coalition. We wanted to maintain a minority situation to show British Columbians that it can work.
Yeah, and so the absorbing of the Green Caucus was not an agenda item. In fact, it was explicitly not an agenda item.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the Liberals when we talk with them. Right at the beginning, we made that clear.
And in terms of why we're talking about budget and supply, is that that's the foundation of confidence in our legislature, and we focused on that. We looked, we had experts advising our side. The Green team had experts advising them, and we looked at other jurisdictions, and the issues around making a minority parliament work focus around passing budgets. And that's not to say that every bill that's brought forward by New Democrats will pass, and that's not to say that bills brought forward by Liberals or Greens cannot get the majority support of the legislature. But we're focused on dealing with what the public of British Columbia delivered to us, and that was a message that they want people to work for them in this legislature, cooperatively when possible, and using our adversarial system to make sure we do better with our laws, not just throw things through because we have a majority. I think it's going to be an exciting time for people because they're finally, after decades, are going to have people of goodwill from all across British Columbia assemble in this room regularly, which will be a part of the agreement tomorrow.
Very regularly.
regularly to talk about the issues that matter to people. And I'm extremely excited about that. That's why both of us got involved in politics. That's why almost every single person that puts their hand up to run for office does. They do it for people in their community. And finally, I believe, after 12 years as an opposition member, I'm very excited about the prospect of working with opposition members to make BC better.
Les?
Have you got this agreement documented on paper? How many pages is it? Have either of you signed it yet? And is it going to be released?
Yes, it is going to be released.
After ratification?
It's many pages. And it will be, not that many, and it's enough pages, and it will be released absolutely in fullness.
Andrew, have you signed it?
Well, we've agreed to it, yes.
Yeah, let's do it again. Let's do it.
There's a sign, yeah. So, no, I mean, we in terms of, we're going to have one in a nice format that has 56 names after it, so whatever, how many.
I know the research librarian's anxious to get a handle on it and have it stored in the best room in the building.
When exactly did you make the call?
To John?
No, in your mind, when did you decide it was the NDP?
Formally, it was this morning, but you could say it was also late last night. We did have meetings with the Liberals yesterday, and it was sort of, we talked after that meeting, so, but formally it would have been this morning, but it was late last night. So we negotiated from 6 till about 9 or 10 with the BC Liberals last night, and yeah, and it was not at the rugby game, Dirk.
Okay, well, we have 3 more people asking questions, and then that's it. Dirk?
During the TV debate, at the very end, Christy Clark looked over at both you guys, basically said, you guys are the job killers. Vote for the Liberals. If you vote Green or NDP, you're going to kill jobs in BC. Is that
Just watch. Just watch.
Yeah.
No, look, frankly, and with respect, she's been getting away with that rhetoric for far too long, because the reality is, we haven't seen 100,000 jobs. We haven't seen a $100 billion prosperity fund. We haven't seen a $1 trillion increase in GDP. We haven't seen the elimination of the debt of BC. We haven't seen the elimination of PST. She says a lot of things, and they don't actually transpire. You know, one of the things we were talking about is an economic agenda. The BC NDP had a very clear economic agenda in theirs, and we had a slightly different economic agenda. You might imagine in conversations that we could see how these would work together very, very well to ensure that we embrace the jobs of the 21st century. So I actually think under this coalition, or not coalition, minorities, government, sorry, it is definitely minority, not coalition, under this minority, you will actually see job growth, real, stable, secure job growth, not boom and bust job growth, not build a big project here so that everyone goes out of work 5 years later, not job growth focused exclusively on an out-of-control real estate sector in Vancouver, but distributed, real, high-paying, fair-wage jobs across the province.
And that's our objective as we form a government, is to ensure that we keep the economy going and we make sure we're preparing for the economy of the future. That's the exciting part about looking at our two platforms together and bringing them together in the form of this agreement on key issues that we can absolutely agree on, and going forward to make BC better, to grow the economy, to create the economy for the future, as well as making sure that our foundational industries like forestry are at the front and center.
Rob?
I know you said in the Wire story you didn't talk politics at rugby, but did you get any sense, Andrew, or either of you sitting there, that you had some type of...
You go first.
I got the sense that New Zealand had an outstanding team, and that Rugby Sevens is 2 minutes too short, because if we'd had a little bit more time, we would have won.
I had to leave in the last game, in the last few minutes, to get to negotiations. No, we'd been in negotiations, four times. This was going on. Neither of us, frankly, wanted to miss this event, and we were negotiating on Sunday. I've played rugby for a large part of my life, and so I went up with Stu Young was very gracious to give me a pass to go see it, and it's worth less than $200.
So the rugby summit is a myth.
Yeah, no, it
was a great day in Langford.
Yeah.
It was a great day of rugby. The Canadian women did us proud, and as I say, New Zealand's pretty good.
2 minutes left.
Has it settled in for you, John, that you're going to go from being the opposition leader to being the premier?
Well, we have steps to take yet for that to happen. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm excited about, I believe passionately in this institution. I've been involved with it for many, many, many years of my life, and I'm excited to be working with Andrew and Sonia and Adam and the 41 MLAs that we've just elected, many of them fresh-faced, coming here for the first time. That enthusiasm is infectious for me. It is already, having two colleagues for Andrew. It's infectious to have new people here wanting to make life better for BC. That gets me up every day, and I have to say I got up with a bit of a spring in my step this morning.
Chandler?
Yeah, your personal relationship between you two has been brought up in the past. As anyone that's watched the debate saw it get testy at times. How is your personal relationship?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Look, listen, we come from the same place. We both grew up here on southern Vancouver Island.
He went to Reynolds, and I went to Oak Bay. We used to kick them.
So there's some healthy tensions between Reynolds and Oak Bay, and I now live in Langford. But no, I think one of the things that it becomes a talking point that people just make these assumptions about our personalities and our character. I think the fact that we're here today doing what we're doing, not for ourselves, but for this institution and for the people of BC, says anything you need to say about how we get along. And we're going to get along even better in the future, because we're going to be working on exciting files that are going to make it going to deliver on the things that we got into politics for.
To be blunt, I think John and I saw a different side of each other in negotiations too. Is that we see each other in this, and we saw each other there, and there's a lot of commonality.
Yeah. And this is an adversarial place.
Yeah.
It's by its nature. Yeah. And both of us want to change that. Yeah. And we've got an opportunity now to do that.
And Andrew, real quick, for people in your riding in Oak Bay that traditionally would vote Liberals today and are maybe a little bit upset, what do you say to your voters there?
You know, I've promised to run to do politics differently. I think you're seeing that here today. I promised to run on principle. I think you'll see that in the agreement that comes out tomorrow as to what is in there. I am not somebody who is willing to compromise my principle and my integrity, and I think that's why I actually was elected in the last election. With 50% of, 52% of the vote in Oak Bay, I feel that there will be others. There will be some in the NDP right now who are wishing they voted Green in Oak Bay, and there's some who voted Green and maybe they wish they'd voted Liberals. And so I think it's a wash on that. What I will promise is, and I will always promise, is to put people first. You know, one of the first things I'm going to become knocking on John's door is, hey, what about those Commonwealth Games in Victoria?
Yeah. And so
Langford. Unless he wants him in Langford, we want him in Vic, so we can work something out there, right? Yeah, yeah. So, no, it's good.
Last question, Lisa.
We've heard from Andrew about his decision-making process. Can you talk to us a bit about what it was like to get that call, to know what's involved? I mean, obviously you've had some indication, but what it was like to get that call today to say it's
Well, it was exciting, and you know, obviously you go into election campaigns hoping to win, and we came out of that election campaign without anyone really knowing what was going on. This has been an absolutely extraordinary period in BC history, and we have an opportunity to continue that going and continue to make historic changes in how this place operates, how we deliver services for people. At the end of the day, that's what excites both of us, is how can we use the talents, limited talents that we have personally to bring people together and get good outcomes for people. That's the whole thing, and I'm pretty excited. My wife said that I was smiling a little bit excessively today. She was worried that I was going to go off the road because my eyes were too shut because my smile was too big. But there's lots of work to do, and we're not done yet. So, but I'm confident that with 44 members, a majority of members prepared to support confidence motions for a new Democrat government, that we're going to get there at some point. And I would suggest the sooner the better for this institution and for us working cooperatively in the future, all members.
Great, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And Amor de Cosmos was here from the Parliamentary Players, but I don't think he has a comment today. Okay.
Right, that's right. Okay.